Hello and welcome to The Bigger Picture, where we connect the dots on global issues. Today we're tackling a term you might be hearing more and more: carbon colonialism. It sounds heavy, and frankly, it is. It's a system where the responsibility for climate action is being unfairly shifted onto the nations least responsible for the crisis.
Right,
We're going to explore what it means
right.
and why the African continent is at the epicenter of this debate, and, crucially, how its nations are starting to write their own rules. Ben, thanks for joining me to unpack this.
It's great to be here, Alex. This is one of the most important and overlooked stories in climate change today.
Yeah,
It's about justice, sovereignty, and what climate action really means.
let's start right there. When you hear carbon colonialism, it brings to mind historical exploitation. How does that connect to what's happening now with climate change?
Well, it's a direct echo of the past. In simple terms, it's when wealthy, high-emitting nations, mostly in the global north, avoid making deep cuts to their own pollution by, well, paying for environmental projects in the global south.
Okay.
The main mechanism for this is the carbon market. So a corporation in Europe or the US can buy carbon credits from a forest protection project in, say, the Congo Basin.
Right.
They then use that credit to offset their own pollution, essentially claiming it's been canceled out.
So it's like a get out of jail free card for polluters.
Exactly.
You keep the factory running, but you pay a fee to say you've balanced the books. The problem is, do these credits actually work?
That's the billion-dollar question, and the evidence is damning.
Oh?
Major investigations by outlets like The Guardian and Source Material have found that over 90% of some of the most popular rainforest-based credits are likely worthless.
Wow.
They don't represent real, permanent, or additional emissions reductions.
This system has been called a license to pollute, and at worst, it's carbon laundering.
Right.
It creates a facade of climate action while the planet keeps warming. And this facade has devastating real-world consequences on the ground. This isn't just about numbers on a ledger, it's about land and people. This has been called the new scramble for Africa.
Absolutely. And the scale is breathtaking. Take a single newly formed company based in the UAE called Blue Carbon.
Okay.
They had pursued deals to control immense stretches of forest and farmland for carbon projects.
How immense?
We're talking about an area equivalent to 10% of Liberia's entire landmass, and, dramatically, 20% of Zimbabwe's.
20% of a country? That's a staggering figure.
Yeah.
That isn't a small conservation project. It's a massive transfer of control over a nation's resources. What happens to the communities living on that land?
Exactly. They are often the first to lose. In Kenya, there have been reports of the Indigenous Ogiek people being forcibly evicted from their ancestral Mau forest.
Wow.
And that's a move that lawyers and activists have linked to ongoing negotiations for a carbon offset deal. Think about that. The very people who have protected these forests for centuries are being pushed out just so a foreign entity can sell credits to a polluter thousands of miles away. It's a profound injustice.
So the system seems broken.
It is.
But this isn't a story of victimhood. African nations aren't actively fighting back and rewriting the rules. There's a clear shift away from what some experts call the Kyoto reflex. What does that mean?
So the Kyoto reflex is the old model. See your forests and land as cheap assets to be sold off for quick cash to the international market.
Right.
African credits were selling for as low as $1 to $3 a ton, a fraction of their value in regulated markets. But the new approach, the Paris mindset, is completely different.
Okay.
It says, our natural resources are for meeting our own national climate targets first. We will use them to build a resilient green economy for our own people. Exporting credits becomes a strategic choice, not a desperate default.
It's a declaration of climate sovereignty. How are countries turning this mindset into policy? Are there concrete examples?
Yes, and they're incredibly promising. Kenya is a leader here.
Really?
Their Climate Change Act of 2024 is a game changer. It legally mandates that 40% of the revenue from land-based carbon projects must go directly to local communities.
Wow.
It's not a suggestion, it's the law. This hardwires equity right into the system.
Yeah.
It transforms potential victims into primary beneficiaries and partners.
That's a powerful model. You're building a domestic coalition for climate action from the ground up. What about other nations?
We're seeing different strategies. South Africa already has a domestic carbon tax, which creates an internal market and a fair price. Egypt has launched its own voluntary carbon market on its stock exchange.
Right.
And countries like Ghana and Rwanda, who were pioneers in the technical side of carbon trading, are now working to build up their domestic capacity. They are moving from being participants in a market designed elsewhere to becoming architects of their own climate future.
It's a remarkable and necessary transformation. They're turning a tool of potential exploitation into an instrument for sovereign development and climate justice.
It's a long and difficult road.
Yeah.
The pressure from foreign interests is immense.
Yeah.
But this pivot is essential. It's about ensuring that the future of Africa is determined in Africa for Africans.
Right.
And that genuine climate action benefits everyone, not just the polluters.
A profound shift from being price takers to price makers. Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. This system of carbon colonialism is fueled by the consumption habits and corporate activities of the global north.
Yes.
So, the question is, what is our collective responsibility to dismantle this system, and how can we ensure that the global transition to a green economy is built on a foundation of justice, not just on convenient accounting tricks?